What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was neglected by his parents but found his mother's hidden training ground? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto's POV. It was my 5th birthday today and you could find me running through the streets of Konoha, as fast as my stubby legs could go. I was overcome by fear, anxiety, and anger. The villagers were yelling profanities at me, saying I was a monster, murderer, demon. One shouted behind me and he said, "You should have never been fucking born, you little monster." This happened every single day and you'd think I would have been used to it by now. Definitely not. You'd think I had gained at least some speed from pushing my lungs to the max and also my little baby legs. Well, I'd like to think that, but that never was the case. I never knew what they meant by this at all. All I knew was that my family, and villagers alike, all hated my guts for some reason. See what I did there, winking face winking face. I would always try to plead to them saying I don't know what they were talking about and that I've never hurt anybody or anything for that matter. They always said that I was lying and hurt me even more. Each one of them always thought that I was the one that killed the people they loved and that I was just lying to save my own demon skin. As I've learned, they definitely did not care for me at all. As I was running, quickly losing stamina, I decided to take a right turn into an alley hoping that it would lead into somewhere where I could try and lose then to escape getting beaten, but I have no such luck. I weaved into 2 other alleys and I faintly heard a few feet on top of the rooftops coming my way and fast, but I paid no attention to it, and that's where my luck went even further downhill. As I was seeing the light of the end of the alley, the ninjas from before jumped in front of me, blocking my way out. All of them was laughing like something was funny to them. It took me a moment to realize that they lead me there on purpose. A door was hidden behind a wall of boxes and then suddenly it came flashing open and knocked me down. Someone came up behind me, while I was too busy trying to get myself back up, and grabbed me, pulling me inside. I was trying my best to scream out, but it was futile. No one was going to come for me anytime soon and I knew it, but yet I still had hope. Stupid right, huh? The villagers and ninjas, seeing as I had finally stopped screaming and accepted the fate I have been given, started throwing kunais, shurikens and broken glass at me. They all aimed at my legs and feet, so I could not run away. But seeing as I would still try to crawl away, they crucified me on the wooden walls. They did this until they exhausted their supply. They carved monster, demon, piece of shit, and a lot of others into my skin with rocks, sticks, knives, even broken bottles they found. And to my best of luck, note the sarcasm smiley face. There were ninjas, high chunin, low junin level in fact. They brought things like broken beer bottles and paper bombs. I was just lucky that they didn't bring katanas and knives like the last attack. They beat me with everything they had and left me to bleed out. By some strength I had left, I tore my hands from their crucified state and crawled out the building. I was in the alleyway behind a dumpster, very slowly healing. This was when a group of drunks came walking by. I pushed myself further behind the dumpster, but according to my dumb luck I knocked over a glass bottle and made them notice me. The seeming leader had said, "This seems to be our lucky day, huh fellas?" The rest of them chimed in, "Hell yeah it is." They each still had a halved bottle of sake and poured it onto my still opened wounds. I cried out loudly in pain. They stood there laughing as they felt pleasure in hurting me, a demon, as they proclaimed I was. They left quite content with what had happened. The last thing I remembered seeing before I blacked out was a man with silver hair standing up and pointing up to the sky, wearing a mask that resembled a dog. I couldn't see the rest of his face, so even if he wanted to hurt me I really wouldn't have any way of knowing anything. Not like anyone really did anything anyways. He walked towards me with quick strides. Out of fright and the massive amount of pain I was in, I passed out. The next thing I know I wake up in something like the sewer. You got to be kidding me. They had to throw me into the fucking sewers. Real original guys, real original. I lowly yelled to myself while looking around. Damn it. I knew they hated me, but they didn't have to go quite this far, I said quietly and sighed exasperated. Well, they were getting pretty creative with their techniques. I mean crucifixion, who in their right mindset thinks of that? But I did give them props for that. It was a pretty good way of keeping me still and keeping themselves amused. Naru knew how to talk, he just couldn't formulate a proper sentence in the real world, being 5 and all that. Also, he obviously didn't know the basics between right and wrong, so whatever he heard is how he acted and said. So the cursing was sent to him, and even though he had a feeling it was wrong, he didn't know, so he just went along with it. I kept walking and walking and walking and walking, until finally I stumble upon a cage with a fox having 9 tails going every which way at random and emitting a large amount of killing intent, KI for short. The fox boomed. I know for a fact that a 5-year-old did not just curse. I jumped back out of fear as to how loud and powerful his voice was. His voice alone demanded respect and had a powerful amount of authority deep embedded in it. He had a very deep bass to his voice. It would make anyone scared to defy him in any way, if at all. I was about 4 or 5 feet away from my previous spot and looked up. Even though everything within me was telling me not to look up, I still did it. Looks like I haven't learned that much from my daily beatings. The fox saw how scared I was and immediately took advantage of it. Out of arrogance he said, "What, cat's got your tongue, Gaki," and laughed in delight. And had a smirk showing his sharp set of teeth. I looked at him frightened and asked in a quivering voice, "Or why you gonna hurt me too?" And soon had tears in my eyes threatening to fall. Out of instinct, I had my hand up in an X position and started backing slowly away. He quickly got up and with an apologetic voice he said, Kid, I'm sorry if that's how I came off to you. It's just that I've been sealed in you for 5 years now and I was very bored, and so when I saw you I decided to have some fun, no. It's okay. It's just the villagers have been beating and hurting me and my parents were choosing my siblings over Myrrh since the day I could remember. So I thought you were the same. I'm sorry for making that assumption, Mr. Fox. I calmed down a bit hearing the sincerity in his voice, and with that said I deeply bowed to show my respect. His voice had changed. It seemed softer than it was before. When I looked back up at him, he had a look of regret, pity, angry and sorrow. Well, as much emotion as a furry fox could show. He then proceeded to say, "I'm sorry, it's my fault that the villagers are doing those things and the cause of your family's neglect." I had a look of confusion on my face that said I didn't understand what he meant. He lightly chuckled and said, "I'll show you my memories of what happened the day you were born if that's okay, kid." I gave him an acknowledging nod. And with that he continued. Magical girl flashback to when Naruto, Menma, Mito, and Naruto were born, brought to you by the amazing author San. Author's POV. Today, October 10th, was the day Kushina Uzumaki would finally have her babies, and they were quadruplets. She was very happy to be able to be living with the man of her dreams, Minato Namikaze, and have the amount of kids she wanted and to have the names. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze being the first child, Menma Uzumaki Namikaze being the second child, Mito Uzumaki Namikaze being the third child, and finally Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze being the youngest. But that happiness was very short-lived. As to why, because at that moment a masked man by the alleged name of Madara Uchiha appeared and extracted the 9-tailed fox from Kushina. At that point in time the masked man had placed the 9 tails under a genjutsu, forcing the fox to attack the Leaf Village. That day a lot of lives were lost, leaving the villagers in sorrow of the loss of their loved ones. Minato was currently thinking of a way to keep the fox at bay when he thought, my children have the strong Uzumaki blood running through their veins, so maybe I seal the 9 tails in one of them. And have the chakras separate in the other 3. Each of their chakras haven't developed yet, so nothing majorly bad will happen. Right? I'd prefer to take the risk, but how am I going to keep this gigantic fox at bay while I set up for the ritual? That would have to be one of the most puzzling situations he had ever been in. Then, he remembered Kushina's chakra chains that was purposefully designed to keep a tailed beast from doing too much damage if it was to ever somehow be released and be causing a ruckus. He used his flying Ragen technique to teleport next to Naruto and proceeded to pick him up. Naruto, which was the closest to him since he was in a hurry, he didn't really have that much time to pick and choose one. He hadn't noticed yet that Naruto, however, was the only one of the children that wasn't wailing because of the noise going on outside. He teleported towards Kushina and went on in telling her his plans. She disagreed with everything he was saying. She told him, I don't want to disadvantage my children with such a big burden, and you can just reseal him in me. I was his former holder, so it would probably be best to place him back inside me, Minato said. Honey, I know you love our children and I love them too, but if I seal him in you again you'll most likely die. You're already exhausted from childbirth and I don't want to take that risk. The only reason you're even alive right now is because of your amazing Uzumaki stamina. She soon reluctantly agreed to it. With that, Minato proceeded along with his plan to seal the 9 tails in the newborn baby Naruto and distributed the fox's chakra to his other children. When he was about to give up his soul to the Reaper, he heard a voice that said, "Minato, this is Kami-sama. I am speaking with you because I have reason to believe that your child, the new Jinchuriku, will have many struggles and hatred indirectly going towards him. Take care of him, and if you neglect him you will regret it. This is your one and only warning. Bad things will befall you and this village if done otherwise. You have been warned, Namikaze. Remember this. Just so you guys know, he wasn't yelling, that's how I'm going to write him." Minato answered with an, "Of course, Kami-sama. I would have done it without such warnings from you. I will love him no less than that of my other children. I can promise and guarantee that I will raise him to be a great man." Little did he know he would be influenced by the hatred all around him without even realizing it. And with that, the Kyuubi was sealed in the newborn baby that was to be Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Flashback end. Kurama's POV. I looked back down at the kid and he was crying. He had tears streaming down his face and snot running from his nose. He had done nothing to stop it and showed no intentions of wiping his face. I was about to apologize to him for showing my memories, but then he cut me off saying, "Mr. Fox, I'm sorry for insulting you earlier, and if it's okay with you, could we be friends and could I know your name?" He had this look of determination and a little shining of fear in his eyes. I was quite taken aback by his question to know my name and wanting to be friends. I asked him, "Why would you want to know the name of a demon fox, let alone be friends with one willingly?" Having a hint of curiosity in my voice. He had this look of happiness and said, "Because you're not as bad as you let on and you're not a demon fox. You're just a huge fox with 9 tails that is easily misunderstood by most, and plus you were the only person to ever be nice to me apart from Gigi-sama, Ayane and Oji-chan. After all, what people don't understand they tend to fear and hate." He said those words like they were his own, while in fact they were those of the 3rd Hokages. What the kid said was quite surprising. Why this undernourished 5-year-old had to be given such a hard life from the beginning was very heart-wrenching. I was about to tell him my name and ask who those people were. As if reading my mind, he says that Gigi is the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha. And Ayane and Oji was the owners of the ramen shop I always go to. Taking that as the ending of him talking, I said, "My name is Kurama and you can call me anything apart from Kyuubi, I don't like the title." He looked at me with pure happiness and said, "Got it, Kura-ni," and giggled. "Kura-ni, why that name?" He quickly said, "I'm sorry. I won't call you that if you don't like it," and deeply bowing his head. I told him, "I love the name, it has a nice ring to it, I just didn't accept it as all." He looked back up with a huge smile on his face. He next introduced himself as Naruto. I said, "Nice to meet you, Naru," and smiled. He then giggled at the cute nickname I gave him. Seeing him so happy made me have a very large need in protecting him from anything. I already knew I couldn't protect him from the villagers because of the rules surrounding him, but I could help him. "Hey Naru, how would you like it if I were to train you so you could get stronger and avoid the daily beatings?" He had a look of pure disbelief as to what I just said. He asked me if I was really serious and I just simply nodded. With that he was jumping up and down and saying, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." I gave a low chuckle at his reaction. "We can start as soon as you get out the hospital." He shook his head hard while grinning. Kura knew he was in the hospital cause he can detect outside of Naruto's body when anything is happening. "Oh Naru, someone is trying to wake you up now, so see you again tonight," I said as I was about to push him back to the real world. Then he asked, "Kura-ni, before I go, where am I?" "It doesn't really seem to be the sewers," he said while sheepishly rubbing the back of his head. I replied, "In your mindscape." He nodded and asked me, "Since I'm in my mind, is there a way to change this place up, cause you looked cramped in there and it just looks disgusting?" I looked at him shocked and answered, "Yeah, there is. Just close your eyes and imagine what you want it to look like." He said, "Okay. But Kura-ni, can you describe to me where you used to live before you were ever locked inside a person?" He asked me, "Okay, it looked like a clearing in the middle of a dense forest with a stream going down the middle from in mountains in the back as far as the eye can see, cool breeze, rabbits, deers, squirrels, and much more animals and the shining sun." I was reminiscing on my old home, now feeling a little homesick, and with that he lightly shakes his head, and then just as I described it with every detail, that's what the room had now looked like. Nostalgia washed over me as I stared at my new but technically old environment. And there was a cave in the back he said was for me to sleep. The cage was now gone and even the seal was too, but it was around my neck as a necklace, collar. I looked at him confused as to why he did it, so I asked him. He said, I only did it cause Kura-ni is really nice to me, and we are friends. I didn't want you to feel like you were being caged and because I consider you as my big brother, not some tailed beast, and you looked like you missed your home. So I thought, why not do that since I can do whatever I want here. Hee, and scratched the back of his head. But I couldn't really do anything about the seal. It just won't go away. I tried imagining you here without the seal, but it just still pops back up. Is what Naru said, closing his eyes again. The seal started to glow a little, but like he said, still popped back up around my neck, just like he said. Oh Kura-ni, how could I talk to you if I wanted to during the day without having to go to sleep? He asked, a little sad that he has to go. I chuckled lightly and said, we can talk through telepathy. All you have to is call me and I'll answer you no matter what, and don't worry, I will never leave you. After I was done, he ran up to me and gave me a hug. Well, if you consider nuzzling up in my fur a hug. Ha ha ha, Naru, see you later, or if you want to talk to me, and with that, he left. Flashback to when Naruto was getting beaten. Dog's POV. I felt my Anbu mark burn, which was a signal that the Hokage was calling for me, so I shunshined there right away while bowing to show my respect for him. Hi Hokage-sama, what is it that you need? It was the third Hokage around the table tonight. Okay dog, I want you to find Naruto and make sure he is safe. If he is not, find the villagers who hurt him and bring them to Ibiki and Anko to have their fun with them. Got it dog? The Hokage said with a bit of venom in his voice when he mentioned the villagers. They tend to get too physical when it was his birthday, he said whilst whispering the last part to himself with a hard expression while looking out at the village. Hearing the urgency in his voice, I quickly said, hi, and called my team to help look for him. I went into the village desperately trying to look for the young child and hoping that I was not too late. Upon arriving just minutes later when they left the defenseless child to bleed out, I caught a group of drunks saying something and then walked into an alley laughing. I decided to follow them just in case, and I come to see them pouring sake on his fresh wounds. He screams out in pain and they left laughing with each other. I made 3 shadow clones to compensate for each drunk and to take them to Ibiki and Anko like the Hokage ordered, all the while hurrying to Naruto. Once I was close enough I could see him violently trembling, so I said in a soft voice, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help you, but then he passed out. As if on K-Crow, Itachi, Dolphin, Iruka, and Weasel, Yamato, show up, then we shunshined to the hospital. I ordered Crow to tell the Hokage to come to the hospital, and for Dolphin and Weasel to stay and guard the door. They each comply, but I had let a lot of my ki out unconsciously when the nurse called him a demon, and refused to get him a room and treat him. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Hokage, POV. I was currently in my office pacing around waiting for Dog to report back in. Suddenly Crow shunshines into my office, not bothering to bow. At the moment I didn't care, I just wanted news about Naruto. I asked him, what is it? Has Naruto been found? With concern in my eyes and voice. He answers saying, hi Hokage-sama, but unfortunately we were too late finding him. By the time we left they already started and finished. We only came when some drunks were finishing up with their fun, he said using his hand to emphasize fun. He's now in the hospital getting treated. With that I was in a panicked state of mind and I shunshined to the hospital running around trying to find a nurse. I saw one of 5 nurses that actually treated Naruto as a human and not a demon. Her name was Chihora Takumi. I ran up to her asking her where Naruto's room was. She said, it was room 406, top floor on the left, after getting out the elevator. I'll be up after getting my bag with the things I need. There wasn't much technology around yet, but this was one of the only ones, so bear with me for now. I busted through the door to see Kakashi and his team in one corner and the 4 nurses that treat Naruto kindly running around trying their best to get him situated and fixed up. I turned to Kakashi and asked, how bad is he? He looked at me dead in the eyes, and his breath hitched. He chalked out. He has 3 broken bones, 4 fractured ribs. He has deep holes in his hands going right through. His neck is sprained, deep gashes in his legs and thighs from kunais and shurikens, and he has demon, monster, among other things written on him. They were pretty deep. The nurses say there's a high possibility that he will have scars from them, but they're not 100% sure. By the time he was done he didn't want to look in my face. I looked at Naruto with tears in my eyes repeating, "I'm sorry, if only I could have protected you better." Flashback ends. When I was waking up, I heard Gigi mumbling something like, "I'm sorry, if only I could have protected you better." I twitched slightly and groaned, clutching my head. "OWW, my head hurts." Just then I felt Gigi run up and hug me, and all the Anbu's eyes were on me. I hugged Gigi-sama back, holding back a groan because of the surge of pain from the tight hug, and whispered so that only he could hear, "Gigi-sama, don't ever blame yourself for what happens, okay? It's not why your fault, it's my parents. You should already know that I love and wouldn't ever think of blaming anything on you, so while you're around me don't think or say stuff like that again, please." I was looking at Gigi-sama but keeping my guard up around the Anbus. According to my past experiences, they mostly hate me. I know they were the ones that saved me and all, but I don't care. They had to. If they didn't, Gigi-sama could take away their Anbu memory if need be and kick them out of it, so I don't necessarily trust them. The one with the silver hair, he had this gentle and lazy air surrounding him. The guy with the black hair in a low ponytail had sort of a brotherly and protective kind of air around him. But the one with his hair down had this mature, fatherly but at the same time botherly and scary air to him. They seemed kind of different from the other underling Anbus who used my suffering as amusing or a fun pastime show to get rid of their boredom. I wanted to trust them. I really did, but because of what recently happened and all of my experience I have with Konoha people, it made it hard to. When Gigi-sama finally calmed down and let go of me, I decided to ask him a very sensitive question. "Gigi-sama, why didn't you tell me that I was a Jinchuriki? Sorry if I spelt wrong. The Kyuubi no Kitsune." I asked in a very straightforward way that left no room for arguments. Saying he was shocked was an understatement. He looked like fish out of water, trying to find words to answer me. When he finally regained his composure, he looked serious. Like the serious that would perfectly outline your face, making your wrinkles look more refined, and said, "Which person told you that and when?" "Oh, Kura-ni did. He's really nice. He's one of the only people that's actually treated me nicely. Apart from you and 2Jii-chan and Ayane-chan, that is." Gigi looked really confused as to who any of those people were, so I giggled and said to clarify things up, "Kura-ni is the Kyuubi. His actual name is Kurama though. He doesn't like being called the Kyuubi. But he's really nice and he didn't attack the village of his free will. He was forced to be a man named Maduna no, Manda no Oh yeah, it was Madara Uchiha. 2Jii-chan and Ayane-chan are the owners for the Ramon shop, Ichiraku. I know Gigi wanted me to spit out who the man was that controlled Kura-ni, but I wanted to mess with him. I said all those stupid names on purpose. When I finished, Gigi-sama had a look of astonishment on his face. Maybe it was cause they thought Kura-ni was mean, or because of the mystery man. I don't know. Gigi-sama inhaled sharply, then said, "Naru, do you think you can call out the Q-Air Kurama so I can talk to him, please?" "Sure, Gigi-sama." With that, Kura-ni took over. "Okay, what do you want, old Hokage?" Kurama's POV. When Naru-chan and I were talking, he allowed me to be able to see through his eyes and hear through his ears. While I was thinking about what just happened, the Hokage called me out. I asked in the most non-hateful way I could manage, "What do you want, old Hokage?" But it didn't work cause I hated the man. I gave a small smirk, flaunting my set of deadly sharp teeth. As if sensing that I didn't like him very much, he backed away just a little. I somehow managed to catch his behavior. It made me smirk a little bit more. I would say that my small intimidation fun worked. I could sense the Anbu tense up a little in the back waiting strike, so I flashed them a grin and winked. I held my hand up in mock surrender, saying, "Oi, calm down. I'm just messing with you guys. I have things to do with Naru, so I would greatly appreciate it if you could hurry up." I was also taking care of some very urgent matters before I got called out. He was slumped tears of joy. I said in a hurried and slightly annoyed tone of voice. The old man still looked absolutely stumped at how I took full control of Naru's body. "You should really see your faces. Ha ha ha. It is absolutely priceless." I couldn't help but laugh, it was absolutely hilarious. I was holding my stomach because of how funny it was. On the outside it looked like they were afraid of a simple 5-year-old, but if you were there longer you'd know the real reason. Oh my, how funny that was. When the old man regained composure once, he had a look of seriousness on his face. He said, "Okay Kurama, what did you mean when you said you were controlled by an Uchiha named Madara?" He paused for a little bit then started again. I don't know if I can fully believe that cuz Madara Uchiha has been dead since a little before Yondaime Hokage, which was about 50 years ago. I honestly don't know if I can fully trust that. You were either lying or been tricked, he said in a matter-of-fact kind of voice. It irritated me so much, but for some reason I didn't really care. But for another reason it just set me off. Look Hokage, I couldn't care less whether or not you believe me, okay? I only need one person to believe in me and that's Naru, got it? I said, a bit threatening. I hate everyone in this hateful village. They can't tell the simple difference between a demon and a human baby boy. I stopped to take a breath and take in their faces and aura they were giving off before continuing. I may be a demon, but even as demons have a set of morals. We would never ostracize one of our own because he had something in him that the others didn't. You knew that Naru has been getting beaten and abused mentally and physically by the civilians and ninjas alike. Even your Anbu squad that was supposed to protect him just let it happen and sometimes joined in. You are the Hokage and you are supposed to have an absolute fucking rule. But you let the simple-minded civilian council members trample all over you and you just lent a blind eye to what was happening. I took another pause to straighten up my temporary body and pointed a stubby finger at him. That has forced Naruto to grow up faster than any 5 years should. The only reason I haven't leveled this village to no more than ashes is because of Naruto. Through all he's been, I would have been angry and vengeful towards this village. Instead, Naruto is the complete opposite. He thinks that this village is still weeping for their families and loved ones they lost when I attacked, so they choose to take their anger out on the closest thing or someone that they can find, and unfortunately that just so happens to be Naruto himself. He seems to think that if he can relieve some of the villagers' anger and sadness then he'll be happy. He's way too kind for his own good. When he was born you made a law making it an S-class secret for Naruto holding me inside of him. This must be the worst secret in the history of the great nations because everyone in this god-forsaken village knows. If you don't do something about these attacks I will. And if one day Naruto does snap, then I will do something no one will be able to stop. The last time I wasn't in control, therefore I was weaker, but next time won't be the same. I sent the Hokage a deathly glare and looked down in sadness because I knew it was my fault. But even after this I was still letting out a major amount of ki. I could hear Naru in the back of my mind saying something like, "It's not your fault," and that truly made me happy. Now to answer your previous question. As I said before, I was controlled a man under the name of Madara Uchiha. I will also be training Naruto because unlike you people, I don't want him to die. Just wanted to put that out there before you send some people out to capture him. The looks on their faces said they were beyond speechless. They probably couldn't think of a reason why the all-great and powerful Kyuubi no Kitsune would seriously do this and was this passionate to say those type of things. I'm really getting irritated by these guys now. All I wanted was to go to sleep and not have to talk to anyone just yet. But no, this goddamned Hokage just loved to be all up in a demon's business. I looked down and sighed, exasperated. Seeing this, the Hokage suddenly coughed and said, "Look, I didn't mean to disrespect you or anything." I cut him off with a low mumble. Sure as hell sounded like it. He narrowed his eyes at me and I smiled, an innocent one, and he continued, "I found it hard to believe when Naruto said you were controlled by Madara Uchiha. If he had said that a man was using his name it would have been even more believable, but he left that part out. I want these Anbu behind me to help with anything. We could work out a schedule." Once he was done, the Anbu had an aura that was surprisingly calm and something else mixed and I couldn't pick out. Surprisingly, it wasn't a bad emotion though. You know, when Naruto was about to lose consciousness I heard the dog-faced one say, "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help you." I thought maybe they can actually tell the difference between a kunai and the scroll it's held in, and guess I was right. Hopefully. Naruto wants to trust you, and believe me, he doesn't just hand out trust to just anyone like that anymore. When the Hokage mentioned you helping Naruto train, your auras were calm but with a hint of something I couldn't quite pick out towards him. Humans are just all the same with the exception of a few, I guess. If I find out that you guys have any ill will towards him I will kill you and destroy this village. I finished saying as I had my hand on my chin, looking each of them up and down. I gave a low growl and they all straightened up as they should. Since nothing else is being said I will be going back to my important business and let Naruto have his body back. Remember my promise of what I said would happen if Naruto is to snap. This is your final warning. Do something before I do it myself. And with that his whiskers turned back to thin lines, his eyes back to their ocean blue color instead of blood red, his canines back to their short, dulled shape, and finally his nails back to being short and rounded. Before I left I heard the Hokage say, "Wait, don't leave yet, I want to ask you something else," inside. I just laughed and Naruto took back over completely. Naruto's POV. Well, Gigi-sama, I gotta go now. My parents are probably worried about me right now. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and I got to go and buy some new clothes, weapons and scrolls cause Kura-ni is going to train me, I said as I ran out the hospital room. I faintly heard Gigi-sama chuckling behind me. Then he shouted, "Come to my office tomorrow at 11 because of what we just discussed." Soon as I got out of the room I got scowls from a lot of nurses. I ignored everything and ran up and hugged Kyoka-san. At first she looked super surprised, then she saw it was me and smiled a motherly smile. I felt all warm inside. Kimu-ne, Kitsune, Saku-ne and Mami-ne saw me leaving and waved goodbye saying they were going to see me later. She picked me up and kissed my forehead and said, "Team Pu Ta Gniko 730s, T." I knew that it meant to meet up on the Yondeem Hokage's head at 7:30 p.m. It was a code the six of us came up with a long time ago. She was considered my mother since she actually loved me and never thought of me as a demon. I loved her so much. For once in my whole 5 years of being alive, today was the best day ever. It was now 9 a.m. when I reached the Hokage estate. To find I was locked out was no surprise, so I went with the alternate route, climbed the walls to the attic window. I always leave it open just in case. This has not been the first time, so I had gotten used to it and I had to be prepared for this to ever happen again. I went into the room, which had nothing more than a simple mattress with a few small holes scattered here and there, a large enough closet, a desk and rolling chair. I was thinking what Kyoka-san wanted to meet up for. The fact that they all wanted to see me made me wonder what they wanted to do. Mami-ne, Saku-ne and Kimu-ne hardly take time off from work, and with Kitsune we hardly see each other because she's one of the head nurses under Kyoka-san. But when we do see each other she only has time for ramen and a little small talk, but I greatly appreciate that they love me as much as I love them and have enough time to see me then and again and on my important days. Deciding that thinking about it won't get me anywhere, I went to go and get something to eat. I got out of my room and looked around, being as silent as I could cause I didn't want to wake anybody. In this house everyone was awake way earlier than 9 and it's surprising that they aren't awake. That was until I remember that yesterday was the triplets' birthday also and they had probably partied late into the night. I looked towards the stairs and ran down to the kitchen and got a basket of fruits, mainly 3 apples, 3 bananas and 2 apricots, and 2 fish, having in mind to go to training ground 44. But as I was about to leave, my sister Naruto and my brother Menma sees me. Just before mom and dad come down I open the door a little, but only enough to put the basket out. They start to pester me about where I was and screamed for mom and dad. Mom comes running down first and dad uses his flying Reagan mode to come down and see what's happening. They run to Naruto and Menma to see if they were hurt. As this was happening I tried to sneak out the door, but they heard me and mom asked where I was all night with her hair flying around. To be honest, it really scared me. I looked at my dirtied feet and whispered, Last night while you guys were throwing a party for the triplets the V villagers saw me and beat me up. I had to go to the hospital and they just let me out this morning. I think she heard the gist of what I was saying cause she was very angry. This always happened, so I tried to tone down the parts including the villagers. She raised her hand and hit me on the cheek. I could tell she put some chakra into that hit cause it flung me into the wall, making me slide down to the ground. My face was stinging very badly and I started to cry. She looked at me and shouted, "Why can't you stop lying? You know how much your dad and I love the villagers." I didn't look up at her or say anything. Not like she or anyone in this room was going to listen to me. When I finally looked up I saw Lady Kushina on the floor crying and Hokage-sama, Minato, kneeling beside her trying to calm her down. He looked at me with a hate-filled gaze and said, "Go to your room and we don't want to see you until dinner, which will be starting at 7. Then he whispered, "You really are a demon," but I heard him through Kushina's sniffles and sobs only barely. I looked on in disbelief and completely heartbroken at them after he called me a demon. Menma and Naruto were snickering and Mito just woke up and came out of her room rubbing her eyes. I straightened to get teary-eyed and went running up to my room. My heart was broken into many pieces. I knew I was the black sheep of the family, but never once have I been called a demon by my two supposed parents. I have definitely been physically abused by them when I was blamed for things I didn't do, but they have never once called me anything but my name. I could handle getting beaten and abused and not being cared for by them and the villagers, but hearing my own two parents calling me a demon hurt me so badly. I locked the door to my room and stayed huddled up on my bed silently crying, trying to hold back my soft whimpers. In my head, in a kind but bone-chilling voice, someone said, "Don't you dare listen to what those bastards have to say to you, young man. They are the very essences of what I hate in a person. You will become strong enough to survive on your own, and once they see you thriving they will beg for your help. Think about that and pull yourself together. They will one day depend on you, and it's all up to you to help or abandon them as they have done to you." I wiped my tears and opened the window, jumping on an outstretched branch, and went to get the basket by the front, then continuing by rooftop, slipping here and there but regaining balance, heading to training ground 44. Soon as I saw the forest coming into sight I called for Kurani. He answered and it frightened me a little. He told me to eat before we started my training. I ate one of the fishes I bought with me and an apple. I then asked, "Can we train now?" already heading to a clearing in the middle of the forest, and he said, "Sure, but first you have to learn how to control your chakra." Kurama's POV. Naru-chan asked me what chakra was, and I pulled him into his mindscape and said, "Chakra is something everyone has to make jutsus. Chakra is essential to even the most basic technique. Through various methods, the most common of which are hand signs. Chakra can be controlled and manipulated to create an effect that would not be possible otherwise, such as walking on water, exhaling fire, or creating illusions. Chakra is ordinarily not visible to the unaided eye unless it is highly concentrated or manifested in large amounts. This is rarely seen due to the restrictions of 8 specific tenketsu known as the 8 gates, which limits the amount of chakra an individual can release at a single given time. It looked as if Naru didn't understand what I had just said. So I sighed and said to him, "Chakra make things go boom boom and chakra make people strong." Naru was a very smart boy, but he obviously also had a very childish manner in understanding some things. He looked up at me with a look of astonishment. I chuckled, then said to him, "Now that you understand what chakra is, walk up that tree without using your hands. There's a catch, however. You see, if you put too much chakra into your feet you get blown off, but if you put too little you slip. So you have to find the right amount to walk up safely. To draw out your chakra, imagine a blue thick liquid type substance running through your body. It's the same as your blood, a vital part in living. Imagine the blue substance rushing towards your feet, but make sure you are in control, got it?" I pushed him out of our mindscape and then he looked at a nearby tree. Then I said, "Remember, too much you get blown off, too little you slip." He shook his head, then tried to concentrate some chakra into his feet. I was surprised at the method he chose to try. Most would only think that a chunin or seasoned ninja would be the one thinking about this, not a newbie child. He put one foot on the tree, then focused some chakra into it. Then he saw that what I said was true. He put chakra into his feet steadily until he found the right amount. He also found that you could put a little more than needed and still stay on the tree. At first he didn't get it, but after a few minutes he got the right amount and started to walk up the tree slowly to begin with, then he began to jog. He was getting excited, so he started to slip, and when I was about to take over, he grabbed hold of a branch and swung himself up. He sat on that said branch until he was fully steady. Then he giggled and scratched the back of his head. I told him to do it again. It took him about 4 hours to get it right, and it without thinking. I was so proud of him. I told him that he was going to try water walking next. 1 o'clock, okay now Naru. Water walking is much harder than tree walking because the water is never still, and that makes you want to focus more on keeping balance than on the water. There's always going to be a disturbance in the water from either the wind, the fish, or your feet. So you're going to have to concentrate and try to keep the same amount of chakra, unlike with the previous exercise where you could have a little bit less than or more than enough chakra without anything happening. So please be careful. Thankfully he understood what I said, so I didn't have to re-say it in simpler terms to him. He shook his head, then he put one foot on the water. Same procedure as with the tree walking, but took about 2 hours to get up to a running pace. It's now 3 o'clock. As I had expected, he only took 2 hours to complete this trial. Since he got the hang of the tree climbing technique in 4, he would most likely get this technique down in a less amount of time. Okay Naru, now that you've got these exercises down pat, I'm going to teach you how to focus your chakra into one spot with the leaf technique. Naru looked with a questioning face and asked what it was. So basically the leaf technique is when you put a leaf on a part of your body mainly used on the forehead and focus chakra on that spot on your body to make it stick. We'll start off basic and then I'll make you try it while walking around, to get a better feel of it. Okay. He shook his head and said, HNN, okie dokie, then proceeded to grab a fallen leaf and put it on his forehead. I instructed him to sit in a lotus position and close his eyes to focus better on the leaf sticking. At first he was getting it except the leaf kept on falling, but I noticed something. Each time the leaf fell it always looked a little ripped, burnt or soggy. Then I realized that it must be his elemental nature coming through. So much potent energy. I had in mind to test out his chakra nature after this, maybe tomorrow or after his rest. I told him to try it again. Took him 30 minutes before he could focus on such a small object. After I saw that he could get it to stick to him for an extended period of time, I told him to walk around with it until he could run with the leaf still on his forehead. He took a max of 1/30th hour to do this, and each time the leaf fell from his head it didn't fall to the ground per se. Instead it dangled from his forehead by a blue see-through cord-like substance, and each time it fell the cord got shorter and shorter. To be honest, I have no idea where I'm going with this. I just thought of it and said, let me write this too, it seems interesting, so could you comment on what I should do with it? I want to try and make Naru into a puppet master of sort with this idea as a backup plan if he's in battle and running low on chakra. And by the way, it's 5 o'clock now. Okay Naru, since you've been so awesome today, we're going to take an hour break to replenish your chakra. After that I'm going to teach you the transformation jutsu. As its name says, it's to make you transform into someone you have seen before. But the one downfall of this jutsu is that if there is a ninja around and they know what your chakra network feels like, then they can find you easily. But you can suppress how much chakra you actually have. Right now it's around 6, so we have 1 more hours before we have to leave to get back home. While Naru was resting, eating, I told him about what I found out about his chakra nature, but I didn't tell him what types I thought he had because I didn't want to make him unnecessarily happy then sad because it wasn't as I had said. After the hour break was up, I told him the necessary hand signs for the transformation jutsu and for him to do it. It took about 5 minutes, for it was a fairly simple jutsu. To be sure what I had in mind was correct, I said to him, go into the village and go to a ninja store and get some chakra paper, kunais, shurikens, paper bombs, ninja wire, weapons pouch, sealing scrolls, ankle and arm chakra weights, regular scrolls, bandages, notebooks and some paint. The paint is for a special occasion. Tongue out. Naruto's POV. I really wanted to know why we needed all that stuff, but then I remembered I'm in the middle of training and I need to hurry up if I want to find out what he's going to do with them. I ran into town and to my surprise it went smoothly. Nobody knew it was me. A few ninjas kept on eyeing me, so I know I've got to work on my transforming. The whole time I was there I felt as though they would attack me at any given moment and I wanted to leave, but Kurani was saying stuff like, come on Naru, you can do this, or, don't worry if they do attack you. I'll take over and go back to the forest and try again another day. I was really happy that he was so patient with me enough to do this. He took over from time to time, cause I really didn't want to do it, and he apologized for making me do something I didn't want to do. I told him I would have had to do it sooner or later even if they don't know it's me. After about a half an hour later of stopping and getting the things Kurani told me to get, I had finally got back to the forest. He said to me, okay, now that we've got all the supplies, I want you to take the chakra paper and put as much chakra in it as you want. The more chakra there is, the more prominent the results. Naru nodded, then faced the paper in his hand and poured chakra into the paper little by little. At first nothing happened, but over time you could see the paper split in 3. The first piece of the paper was split in 2 perfectly, the second piece was very soggy, and the last piece was burnt and turned to ashes. This signified that he had 3 chakra natures: wind, fire and water. The good part is that they were all strong affinities. What I mean is that they are all strong, like he can use them all equally. I was kind of scared when the paper split into 3, but Kurani said that's what's supposed to happen. Naru, now I want you to get me the weights I told you to get. I took them out of the bags and then he informed me to put them on my wrists and ankles, and so I did. Okay, now that that's completed, I want you to sit down cuz I'm about to activate your weights and I want you to get used to it. Kurama's POV. As soon as I activated them he fell face first on the floor and to be honest it was funny. I couldn't help laughing about it. But when he started to cry I was getting scared because I didn't know why but also because I felt bad. Kura ni it's soo heavy, he screamed to me while he was about to start crying. Naru, calm down, it's supposed to feel like that, I say, trying to calm him down. It took a few minutes to calm him down and when he was I said to him, now I want you to walk around to get used to the weights. He shook his head then tried getting up. It was really funny but I didn't want to laugh at him again. After about 10 minutes, around 6:37 right now, he was walking around with a bit of difficulty but you couldn't really notice only if you were really looking for it. Since it was almost 7, I told him to head back home to get cleaned up and to get to dinner. Naru asked, well, what about the things you told me to buy? Are we going to work with them tomorrow? I told him we were and he said okay and started to walk back to the gate. Naru, we'll be back out in the open in a few minutes so I want you to choose now. You walk out like you are right now or you transform. Whichever one you choose I'll back you, okay? Is what I told him. He chose to go out with a transformation while saying he wanted to make it better. I just backed him up with his decision. After that conversation we reached the fence and he transformed into an red-headed girl. She was around 6 to 8 years old, was about 4 feet 5 looking like a delicate little flower, but her eyes were a deep icy blue that contrasted her deep crimson red hair. She had tan skin and pink thin puckered lips and long fingers. It was a girl that he got interested in but not like a love interest though. Naru wore an orange yukata with yellow and red flowers decorating it. The yukata lightly hung off her shoulders and was paired with traditional Japanese slippers. They left the forest soon after this and started walking back home while villagers set up their shop for night workers, ninjas returning from missions. As we were walking I could feel that Naru just remembered that it was now around the times he gets beaten. So she was walking a bit faster. We were just about to get onto the Uzakaza's estate when a drunk villager, that was one of his main punishers, stopped him. Seeing who he was, Naru almost lost control of the transformation and that's when I had to take over immediately for a while. The man asked where the best hot springs were because he had his wife in town for a little, she was a kunoichi. Okay sir, all you have to do is walk right past the ramen shop and take a left by the library then a right by the jewelry store and then it should be right in front of you. Then I brushed his hand off Naru's shoulder and gave him a cold smile then walked away. I knew it was getting late because I saw most of Naru's attackers coming into view. I decided to take a shortcut that we found but never got to get to quick enough. It led to the house and we would get there within 10 minutes. Flashback, Kakashi's POV. Hokage-sama told me to watch over Naruto for today and maybe the rest of the week. When Naruto ran back home I waited about 1 or 2 minutes before going after him. As he reached his home I saw him climbing up the wall. I was very surprised that the fourth and Lady Kushina really forgot about their oldest. I didn't really see much once he was inside, although I saw him getting food he was going to eat today and getting slapped into the wall by Lady Kushina. I saw Lord Fourth's lips moving then sneering at Naruto then Naruto running back upstairs. At that moment I just wanted to go inside the house and either hug Naruto and just stay there for a while comforting him or just slap Lord Fourth and Lady Kushina. I saw Naruto jumping out the window and getting his food from the front and then running towards the forest of death slipping here and there. Once he was there he ate then he blacked out for a few minutes but I guessed he was talking to Kurama. He then walked up to a tree and putting one foot on it. I could tell he was pushing some chakra into his foot but I was surprised at how he knew he should try and do that first. At first I thought that Kurama told him what to do but then again he was standing in front of the tree thinking of what to do so I doubted it. He was doing great so far. After time went on he started to get a little faster but then as he was about to start running he slipped. I was just about to jump from my spot but he grabbed onto a branch close to him and flipped himself up. That was some fast reflexes he has there. He has me impressed. He did the same thing for the water walking but he fell in a handful of times at the shallow end before he could actually get up to a running speed. He sat in a lotus position to do the leaf and what happened when the leaf fell really surprised me in all honesty. He was amazing and I could tell he will be very strong if he keeps up his training. Naruto was taught the transformation jutsu soon after. It has its weak points, but apart from the leaking chakra you could feel, it was great. He was about to go into town when he transformed into a grown man, but I don't remember if I've seen him around town that much. Since I knew he had Kurama with him, I went to rely what I've seen to Hokage-sama. Once I went inside, I saw that the rest of my team was there too. I told the Hokage of what I saw, and he was just as surprised and amused as I was. He told me to go back and watch what Naruto does until the end of the day. I left after that and went back out to find Naruto. I couldn't remember who he was transformed as, so I went to wait back in the forest. He comes back with a lot of supplies in bags, but I only saw him take out the weights and what I could guess was chakra paper. I saw that I was right about the paper. He put a lot of chakra into it and the paper split in three. The only way you could tell it was paper was because of the pieces that split in two. Then after I saw Naruto going back home, I headed back to the Hokage tower and told what happened, and again my team was there. Flashback ends. Naru's POV. It was probably around 7 now, so I know I have to hurry and take my shower and clean up. I was kind of excited because I was finally going to have dinner with my family again. But I will never forget what Hokage-sama said to me this morning. When I finally came downstairs, it was 7 exactly and Lady Kushina was sharing out the food while Naruto, Menma and Mito were setting the table. I overheard my siblings talking and Naruto brought up the topic about me. She said, why do we have to see him so much? We all know he's not wanted here, so why do we even have to eat dinner with the little demon brat? Menma and Mito started laughing, then Mito said, I know, right? He is unwanted, even mom and dad said so, in a snobby voice. Menma was just standing there laughing, not saying anything, which was really unlike him. He was normally the one who started the conversations, bad-mouthing me. I was feeling like I wanted to cry after what they said, but the same voice in the back of my head said, kid, don't listen to them. If they have enough time to talk about you, it's clear that they are jealous of you. You might not know why, but I do, but you have to find out for yourself. Bye-bye for now, little fox. The first time I heard the voice this morning, I thought nothing of it, but now hearing it for the second time in the same day, I definitely wanted to know who or what it was. I was really surprised to hear yet another voice inside my head, however. I knew it wasn't Kurani's because his has a little bass to it, unlike this voice. It sounded humanly but had a little growl. So I definitely couldn't pin to anyone I knew. But it was definitely a woman's voice. Hearing this voice again gave me the confidence I needed to go downstairs, not crying or anything. I walked down confidently and sat on the sofa looking at them while they did their duties. When they were finished, they called me over and I was kind of surprised they remembered I was still there. When I went to go sit down, Hokage-sama showed up from work and said it was his seat I was about to sit in. So I moved. I didn't want to create any tension between us than there already was. After about 5 minutes of eating in silence, Uzumaki-sama said that she had an announcement to make. Everyone stopped eating and looked at her. She said, so honey, I've been thinking that the triplets here, Mito, Naruto and Menma, should be the heir of the Uzumaki clan when they come of age, because I can see they have a lot of potential already and they're just so cute. Hokage-sama looked at the 3 mentioned and smiled, and I was thinking the same thing, honey. They can be the heir of the Namikaze clan too. After hearing this, I knew that as soon as the older sibling is stripped of the right to be the clan's head, then they were in a sense being disowned. They were seen as unfit and unnecessary to have around anymore, so I knew my time in this house was coming to a close. Even without any full knowledge of being a clan's heir, I still knew their basics. I really wanted to cry, so I excused myself from the table, but no one heard me or acknowledged my presence. I ran upstairs to my room, attic, and cried for what felt like a forever, but in reality it was 10 minutes. I pulled myself up off my bed after I felt a bit better and headed back downstairs. When I reached the head of the stairs, I heard Menma saying, I wish he was never our brother, said Menma, and Mito added, yeah, I agree with Menma. Nobody wants him and he is weak. Then they started laughing and so did the rest of the family, so I ran back up to my room crying. I went into my mindscape and ran towards Kurani. I jumped into his fur crying. When Naru went running towards Kurani crying, he was beyond furious at that family. How could they do this to a young baby boy? They made him into a Jinchuriki. Now they want to treat him like this, were his thoughts. He tried his best to calm Naru down. He reminded him of what time it was, then he started to pull himself together and started to get ready to leave his mindscape. He was still hugging his fur, but he was breathing more regulated breaths. He exited his mindscape, then went towards the window and jumped onto the branch. He was heading to the Hokage monument. Upon arrival he saw Kyoka-san, Kitsune, Mamine, Kimune and Sakune waiting for him. As he met up with Kyoka-san, he saw Kitsune walking towards him. She told Naru to close his eyes, then she picked him up and started walking. He didn't know where she was going for his eyes were closed, but he was definitely excited. She then stopped walking and placed him down and informed him to open his eyes. They had set up a birthday party for Naruto, but he didn't know what to do there as he never had one, nor has he ever went to one. Demon child, remember. Chihora's POV, Kyoka-san. I'm glad Naru could make it without any incidents. A small smile covering my lips as I thought this. But as I looked at him more, he looked sad. I was walking in his direction when he looked at me with teary eyes and ran to me crying. I was heartbroken to see my surrogate son like this. I picked up his small figure into my arms and whispered soothing words to calm him down. I asked him why he was crying and he told me what Mito and Menma said about him. I was emotionally hurting for Naru because Minato and Kushina said nothing about what was happening to him every day nor even acknowledged his presence at all. There was a depressing feeling in the air, so I shouted, "Come on guys, let's celebrate Naru's birthday. Let's try to forget about these trivial issues for now." We all lifted up Naru. That didn't go so well, but they managed cold sweat smile, and put him in his birthday seat and sang him the birthday song. Third POV, I'ma try this again. Naru really loved having people paying attention to him and loving him more. At least one day of the year he could call his own where he could be himself and be happy. He had a smile on his face throughout the whole party. He received presents, he danced with each of them, he sang and he laughed, but most of all he felt love in his heart for each of these nurses, and they felt the same love for him. They loved him as a parent should love a child, and he loved them as a child should love his mother, father. He also received something from Kura-ni, but that's for another time. Naru was happy for the first time in a long while, and had smiled a real smile and laughed a real laughter. He never wanted this to end, but he knew that was only in his wildest dreams would that happen. He knew at some point they would all go home leaving him alone, and when he also had to go home or roam the streets until daylights. That time was approaching slowly but very surely. Time skipped 4 hours. Everyone was packing up their things and newly belongings to head home with. Kyoka-san was very adamant on not leaving Naru alone, but she knew she couldn't just take him whether or not they looked after him properly. Naru, however, felt horrible to be leaving his makeshift family. He knew, however, that it would end soon, and he was prepared to go back to his home where no one looked after him like parents should. Sakune, Mamine, Kitsune, and Kimune, like Kyoka-san, wanted to take Naru with them but knew they couldn't, for it was a violation of the law, also known as kidnapping. Naru waved them goodbye, taking his new belongings to his home. He was going to keep them safe at all times since they were all mostly small enough for him to wear or carry on him when going anywhere. He also got clothes and shoes too. From Kyoka-san he got a necklace with the Kyuubi on it. When she bought this she had no clue Naruto had the Kyuubi sealed in him. She did however know that he loved foxes, so this was just a pleasant coincidence. She did not care for any sort of gossip, so whenever she heard anyone talking she just ignored it, so she never found out. Sakune gave Naruto a bracket with the leaf insignia on it. She knew that Naruto still loved the leaf and wouldn't want anything happening to his village, even if the people, mostly the men, were a bunch of, for a lack of better words, bullies. Mamine gave Naru a headband and a Kyuubi plushie. She was in the room when Naruto made the announcement that he knew and loved Kurama, so she got him a plushie of him. We will not go into details about how it happened, but let's just say she did some things to get it. Something like this. Kitsu-chan gave Naru an earring with his favorite ramen topping, fish cake, and what he got named after. He got the ear piercings after an incident on his birthday. She wanted him to feel confident with the piercings, so she bought his favorite ramen topping. Kimu-chan gave him a golden ring that also had the leaf insignia embedded into it. She got it just cause she saw him eyeing it when they were walking and talking together a few times. Naru was extremely happy with his gifts. Even if they weren't big or flashy, he knew that they put in time to look for something to get him and didn't just grab something from the store last minute. He knew that they were paying close attention to get him something they know he would love and cherish. He was heading home and he took the shortest route he knew of possible. That was the forest around the Uzakazi house. He got there in about 20 minutes without any incidents. It took him 10 minutes longer because it was darker. Naru didn't want anything happening to the first gifts he ever got from another human being, so he carved out the back of the wall behind his dresser and hid them there, in a big enough hole to hold 3 shirts and 5 pairs of pants, basic ninja bottoms, sweatpants. As soon as Naru hit his bed, he fell asleep thinking about how his day turned from anxiety-filled to sadness, then anger, and finally happiness. He was thankful to have even a handful of people love him and want to protect him, so he made a resolution set in stone right before he went to bed. That resolution was to protect his precious people. He wanted to get strong enough so he could protect Kyoka-san, Kimune, Kura-ni, if push came to shove, Kitsune, Mami-ne and Saku-ne, to Oji-chan, Aya-ne and Jiji-sama. He knew the old man could take care of himself, but he was still an old man though. That was set in stone before he fell asleep. Kurama's POV. "Naru, get the hell up already," is what I screamed in his mind. I've been trying to wake him up for about 20 minutes now. It's 10:28 a.m. and he has to meet the Hokage at 11, but he's still sleeping. He finally jumps up, starts running around in a hurry trying to get ready. "Okay Naru, it's 10:30 right now and you need to hurry up and get ready if you want to meet the old man on time." He took a quick 10-minute shower and ate a simple egg and ham sandwich while jumping out his window, not yet ready for much interaction with the family. He was on his way by rooftop when he saw the Hokage tower coming into view. Third POV, trying this again. Once Naru got closer to the building, he saw that the Anbu men from the other night were there too. He didn't really want to deal with the person at front, so he went in through the window. Given this action, the Hokage and Anbu were surprised but didn't show it. They knew he was close to the building but didn't quite expect him to come through the window. "Okay Naruto, today I want to talk with you and the squad back there about your training. Like I said yesterday, I want these 4 to train you until you get out of the academy," is what the Hokage would have said if Naru wasn't jumping around and screaming. What he really said was, "Okay Naruto, today I wanted to talk with you and the squad back there about your training," and that's when he got cut off. Everyone looked at him and it was hard for them to keep a smile off their faces. Some can be seen but most weren't. It took Naru about a minute or two to finally calm down, and when he did, he just fell back on the floor smiling at the ceiling. After a while the old man saw that Naru wasn't going to get up anytime soon, so he continued. "Haha, okay Naruto. Like I was saying, we're going to work out a schedule for each of them to train you for 1 week each." He looked at the Anbus in the back and nodded. The one with the dog mask, Kakashi, stepped forward and said, Kakashi will take the first week." The one with the crow mask, Itachi, stepped forward. "Itachi will take the second week." The one with the dolphin mask, Iruka, stepped forward. "Iruka will take the third week," and the one with the weasel mask, Yamato, Tenzo, stepped forward. "Yamato will take the fourth week." Kakashi said all of this. Naru looked at each and every one of them as they were introduced, but every time someone stepped up he would flinch back but just a little and scooted away, but this was not very noticeable. The Anbus and the Hokage, however, noticed this but said nothing of it. Naru would give the Hokage a glancing look of worry and became a little squeamish, but the old man shut it down with a soft smile each and every time. The Hokage coughed to get everyone's attention and said, "Okay, Naruto's training will begin next month, or do you guys want to just start his training next week and skip Kakashi's week and go to Itachi's, then next month we can start with Kakashi?" They all looked at Naru as he was looking at the wall spacing out. They waited for about 3 minutes in silence when he finally came back. Naru said, Can I start next month cuz I want to train with Kura-ni first," and then looks back up at the Anbus. But they can watch what we do and see what I need to work on though," is what he quickly added with his hands waving in the air while whisper shouting the last part. They each went up to Naruto and told him what they were going to do in training. Kakashi was going to do chakra control, Itachi was going to work on ninjutsu and some other variations along with genjutsu, Iruka was going to work on learning and the basics first, and Yamato was going to work on helping with controlling Kurama's chakra. This will change as Naruto grows. Time skip 20 minutes Naru went back to the forest and the Anbus were surprised that the animals haven't found him yet. But they had in mind that it was either they didn't find him or they just didn't do anything. It's not that they weren't bothering him, it's just that they didn't want to for some reason. Naru went into the clearing and started to stretch before calling Kurama. Once he was done, Kurama pulled him into their mind and taught him the basics of the summoning jutsu. Kurama told Naruto to focus his chakra and then do the hand signs as slow as he wants to. At first he didn't really do that good. So he took another minute to go over the hand signs to see if he did something wrong. After 2 minutes Naru closed his eyes and tried again, and when he did there Kurama was as tall as Naru. Naru ran straight into Kurama's fur. Kura ni, your fur is super soft in the outside world, aha. They went on like this another 5 minutes. When they finally stopped Kurama said to Naru, "Okay Naru, I want you to work more on the leaf training we were doing yesterday day, but we're going to do a little improvising." "Yeah, that's it," is what he said with a dark smile showing his teeth. Naru looked at him scared that today was going to be the day that his luck finally ran out. Naru did as he was told and grabbed a handful of leaves and stuck them to showing parts on his body. He stayed in one place for a minute then walked around till he went into a full sprint. Naru didn't get this far before, so Kurama was very proud of him. Kurama said, "Naru, come here for a second." And when he did, Kurama licked Naru's face and said he was proud of him. "Okay Naru, enough of that. Now that we have warmed up enough, we're going to be making your weights heavier for this activity," is what Kurama said. This shocked the Anbus, for they didn't know that he had weights on. Kurama made the hand signs for his ankle weights to get heavier. He told Naru to walk around for about 5 minutes before he has to start running. It took Naru about 15 minutes to get up to his semi-regular running speed. Kurama was okay with that. "Okay, now that we have that down, I want you to get another handful of leaves and ask the Anbu for their kunais." Naru was a little hesitant too. Kurama was watching them hard if they did anything while Naru asked them. Naru wasn't very sure he wanted to ask them because he was sure that Kurama would end them if they did anything. After Naru finally got Kurama the kunais he needed, he doled them down with his chakra. Even if he was to get hit it wouldn't really hurt that much. "Okay, since we've got everything ready, I want you to get in the stance I taught you the basics of yesterday." Naru got into a stance with his left foot about 5 inches apart and 3 inches in front of his right and 3 inches slightly crouched. His right hand was slanted vertically guarding his chest and face, while his left hand was close to his side slanted horizontally. I know that I didn't put anything in the last chapter about this, but oh well, I have it in here now. This stance was called the crouching fox. Kurama transformed into his human form wearing a basic off-shoulder red and yellow kimono with his blood-red hair with yellow and orange highlights in a high ponytail with his tails gone. Also looking like a full snack throwing kisses sweat droplets. He got into the same form as Naru but with little to no openings, unlike with Naru's. He had 4 kunais in each hand and started throwing them at Naru, slowly making it easy for him to dodge. Naru was dodging them with ease while still concentrating on keeping the leaves on his exposed body. He sidestepped 2 kunais and hopped over another 2. Before Naru saw anything, one of the leaves were about to fall but was still connected to him with that same blue chakra strain. Kakashi turned to his team and said, "This was what I was talking about yesterday, and now you can see it for yourselves." His team gave him a small grunt of acknowledgement but still had all attention on Naru. Kakashi also turned his head back towards him as seeing that he wasn't going to get any other form of answers. He whispered under his breath, "Rude," in a playful banter type of way. Naru told Kurama to go a little faster as he thought that this level was getting to be too easy for him. Kurama sped up just a little and threw 3 and sometimes 4 at him at the same time. As Naru was about to dodge one, he got a scratch on his thigh. Kurama told Naru to get back in his form, and this time he wants Naru to try and hit the kunais out of his way with another. Naru did as told, but he was still dodging for a little bit, and as he was getting faster he started blocking them. At first he didn't really get as much as he thought he would, but as the week went by he blocked all of them as Kurama threw them. They did speed up until Kurama was at his halfway mark in speed. After that, poor Naru just couldn't keep up as he was getting scratches and cuts everywhere. "I'm sorry, but this was getting to be drawn out, so I'ma do a quick time skip a month further." Time skip. Hokage's POV. I heard from them a different thing that was both weird and astonishing from each of the assigned Anbu members. Kakashi told me that Naru could keep up with the Kyuubi going at half of his full speed. That was an amazing feat considering Naru is just turned 5 and no more than a month ago. Itachi told me that Naruto had a strong suit for genjutsu and he learned the basics and 4 genjutsu techniques in no more than 1.5 weeks. Iruka told me that he was a smart and deductive little boy. He already figured out how to draw out the Kyuubi's chakra without any help at all. Finally, Yamato told me that each time he got some of his chakra it felt like his wood chakra nature was responding and the trees were looking a little more healthy than usually. The thing that really surprised me though was when they said it took him 25 minutes to get up to mid-chunin sprinting speed with his weights on. I was so proud of him I just had to give him an extra present I couldn't give to him for his birthday. Kakashi's POV. Today is Monday and the day I finally get to train Naruto. He trains with us until he gets into the Anbu or the academy. I'm going to be training him in chakra control. We all know that he got training in all of these parts that we plan to do with him by Kurama already, but we want to make him sharper and faster than he is right now. I came here at 7 when I started to do some of my Anbu warm-up sessions. That included the full run of the village with Guy, some push-ups and sit-ups, jumping jacks, lunges and squats. It was around 7:30 when I see Naruto coming here jogging a little. I told him before at the Hokage's office to get here at 8. I hid myself in the tree and concealed my chakra to watch what he was going to do. As soon as I hid myself he looked at my previous position but slowly looked back. He took of his backpack in which I can guess was a change of clothes and probably food. He gets in a running stance and takes off towards the gate of the training ground in the forest. He did 5 laps around the outer gates in 10 minutes. He jogged back to the grounds where I was and started meditating for another 5 minutes. He blasted and relaxed his chakra. He then got up to do some quick push-ups, sit-ups, curl-ups, squats and lunges. In all took him a good 10 minutes. For the last 5 minutes he ran some extra laps on the water and the tress. He lost balance from some natural disturbances but never slipped or fell. Right now it was 7:59 and that was when I made my entrance. He jumped back a bit and went into a fighting stance, but when he saw it was me he backed off. He quickly covered it up with a face of skeptically by me almost being late. I guess he's a stickler for time, bummer. Okay Naruto, we are going to work on your chakra control some more. He nodded his head and said, okay sensei. What do you want me to do? He was really polite and quiet. I like that. I want you climb this tree, while walking over to the tallest in the clearing, and while you're doing so I'm going to be throwing some object at you, but you have to use your chakra to try and sense them coming and dodge. I said as I was picking up some dull and small rocks. If you can then that just means you're going to be a sensor. If you can't, then, we'll find out. Time skip. It's been 3 hours after we started training and he seems to be an excellent sensor. Once we started I told him to close his eyes and find the shortest tree in the clearing. At first I didn't know what he was doing. He still doesn't know what Naru is doing, tears of joy person shrugging. But as he passed the tress he would let his hand brush against the trees. He found the 2 smallest trees after 5 minutes. He turned to me while pointing at both trees asking which one he should use since they were both the same size. I told him it doesn't matter and he closed his eyes again. He turned to one tree for about 2 minutes and I'm guessing he tried to see which one was really the smallest one. After approximately 4 minutes he turned to the second tree and said it was about 2 centimeters shorter than the first. He went up that same tree with his eyes closed at a slow-paced walking while dodging some branches and going around some gaps in the tree. He went up and down the tree until he was at a jogging pace, then he went to another tree and did the same thing until he was done with all the trees surrounding us. He took another 3 hours to complete this as seeing that there was a ton of trees. It was now 2:15 when he was completely done with the surrounding trees. We worked on the same thing, but on water while I was throwing rocks or anything I could get my hands on while he had his eyes closed. He was doing extremely better than I first expected of him. At first he was getting distracted, but as I threw more objects at him I felt like he realized I wasn't going to be going easy on him at all. He was moving smoothly and was very flexible. It appears that he has amazing chakra control, but he still needs to work on sensing object better though. Around 3 now. We took a short 15-minute break so he can catch his breath and do whatever he wanted to do. Surprisingly he went under a shade, ate an orange and banana then started to meditate. I was watching him for a little while and I noticed that every time something moved, even if it was leaf, he would slightly and almost unnoticeably twitch. At first I thought he had just been concentrating on the sounds, but then I decided to test it out to see if he really was focusing on sound or focusing on chakra. I silently took out a dulled kunai and applied some chakra to it to make it lighter and faster and threw it at him. He let out a small burst of his own chakra and I then jumped back and threw the kunai back with amazing speed. While looking around himself I saw that his eyes had become darkened, then his eyes landed on me. His eyes were a very darker shade of blue with a red tint surrounding the edges. He realized it was me who threw the kunai after a few seconds, then ran up to me. No. Are you okay? He said, running around me supposedly looking for any type of injuries. I am so sorry. He yelled while bullying deeply. Oh Naruto, it's all okay. I'm not hurt and I'm totally fine, see? I said as I did a full turn. You don't have to apologize for anything, I said, trying to calm him down. I was still a little curious how he noticed the kunai, so I asked him. He said, oh, I could a small amount of chakra moving very fast towards me, and then when I opened my eyes I saw it, so I threw it back. He said it like it was the easiest thing in the world to do. Naruto, now I want you to stand in the middle of this clearing while I go hide. This will be to work on your sensory abilities, I said while looking at his reactions. It looked like he was afraid of being alone. He wanted to reach out to me at one point but held onto his hand tightly as a way to calm himself down. He looked up at me, smiled a very fake smile, and shook his head in way to say okay. How weird. I will blast a little of my chakra at you, and as soon as you feel it I want you to blast yours and turn towards where you think I am. This is what we will be doing for the next 2 hours. 2h later. It was now probably about 5:45 to 6 p.m. I don't know if he had any practice in this, although I don't think he did. Naruto was really amazing today. Basically as soon as we started he got the hang of it. Small flashback. As soon as I said begin I hid my chakra and concealed my movements. I walked 2 meters to the left and blasted my chakra. It took Naruto a few seconds to sense it. I'm going to guess he was a little frightened by this when he jumped a little before blasting his own back. We went through the same process over and over again until he stopped flinching and could blast his chakra as soon as I blast mine. At first I thought he wasn't going to be that fast at learning sense and blast chakra 1 the first day, but oh how wrong I was. After about another 5 or so tries he got it down pat. It was an amazing feat in and of itself. Well, for a supposed 5-year-old. While I was still training like this I took a while to even get the basics of even blasting my chakra. After some time I was starting to realize that Naruto was eyeing my direction before I even blast my chakra, and after I completely concealed my movements whatsoever. This was definitely something the Hokage had to know about. Flashback ends. I made him work on this the whole day. I incorporated a few objects into the training. Like I found some rocks and threw them in a direct opposite of my own while also remaining completely silent. Now that was the end of Monday. Tuesday. Today started off like Monday did, with him coming in 30 minutes earlier than needed. Today I included shadow clones. I made 4 clones and gave each of them the same amount of chakra I had, and he had to try and find out which one was the real me. He was getting it under control after 3 hours of this type of practice, but to distract him even more, I made sure to have my clones make a bunch of noise to throw him off. As expected of Naruto, he got it down by the time the day was done, but it did take him several hours, including 3 30-minute breaks. Wednesday. Today started like the days before did. But today I had a little of yesterday's training incorporated with a twist. We would be playing Shadow Clone Blind Tag. The name kind of gives it away. The object of this new made-up game is to find the shadow clone and real caster, only using sensory while they are moving around. So that means the person who is the seeker has to have their eyes closed looking for moving targets. They each have 10 seconds they can move around, and after those 10 seconds are up they have to be in a hiding spot ready to play. This didn't take Naruto more than 6 hours to figure out where each of them were during 30 minutes intervals. Now since we were finished with type of training, I told him we would be working on chakra enhanced attacks. I showed him how I would do those attacks. I demonstrated on a dead tree, and for the rest of the day I just explained how he could potentially hurt someone using these attacks, and all he needed to know until it was 7. Thursday. I finally let him try his hand at chakra enhanced attacks, and obviously at first it was a little difficult for him because of his massive chakra reserves, and the 9 tails chakra was not helping the cause either. Naruto, I want you to tell me what I did. Okay, I say as I turned to a thick and sturdy tree while launching myself at it just before I punched it. The tree unsurprisingly has a huge dent with some small and large shards of wood scattering from the part one punched. Naruto on the other hand fell down on the ground out of surprise and awe with his eyes sparkling. I held up my hand and said again to him, "Tell me what I just did." It takes him a few minutes to come up with something, but I could tell he was thinking hard, for he had his hands in front of his chest with his fingers tangled together. After a few minutes of his eyes wandering around the training grounds and mumbling some incoherent words quite fast, he finally came back to. He bonked himself on the head and said, "Of course," in a whisper shout obviously. He then looked at me and said, "Chakra. That's how you did that. Like you said yesterday, you focused a dense amount of chakra into your fist to make your punch way stronger than it actually was." I give him an eye smile and said, "Good job, Naruto. That's exactly how I did that. Let me explain again." I held up my hand, then I gentle pushed some chakra in my hand, and almost immediately Naruto blasted his too. Naruto, we are done with that exercise, so you don't have to do that anymore." He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and said, "Oh, sorry. Guess I did it without realizing." I then pointed to me hand that was still being held up with chakra now focused in it. I said to him, "Once you get a little bit more advanced you will definitely be able to do something like that." I took a quick pause and his eyes were twinkling. I completely forgot about his enormous amounts of chakra, so I helped him with moving his own flowy and light chakra away from Kurama's way denser and thicker chakra. This helped so much on Friday. Today we worked on just chakra-enhanced attacks. He trained on the basics like channeling chakra to a certain part of his body and practiced on attacking using his chakra-coated fists. At first his attacks were weak, but we found out how little chakra he needed to pull out for the tree to start having chips then dents in it. It was scary to realize that Naruto could work all day without getting tired. By the end of the day it was like Naruto was a natural with this type of training. Anything that had to do with manipulating chakra, he was a natural, and that will make it so much easier for him to work with doing jutsus. It was now around 5:30 when we were completely done with this type of training. I told him he could have the rest of the day to himself, and because I also had a small side mission. After he left, I wrote a whole summary on what happened through the week and the progress he made and sent it in to the Hokage before I went on my mission. Kakashi told me about how Naruto comes half an hour earlier than he needs to, so he does his warm-up exercises. So for the rest of the week while I train him, I want to see if he actually keeps up with this and me. It's right now about to turn 7:30 when I see him jogging here with a bag. I'm guessing that he had a change of clothes and food. He starts with some simple stretches taking him 5 minutes. He then jogs around the forest gate for 10 minutes doing 15 laps. He comes back, then take 10 minutes to climb most of the trees with his eyes closed. For the last 5 minutes he just stay there and mediated. As I saw that it turned 8 o'clock, I stopped covering my chakra. Soon as I did that, Naru blasted his own and threw a kunai at me with deadly precision. I was surprised and impressed by how quickly he sensed me. I caught the kunai and threw it back at him, and he took another two. One for cancelling out the incoming one and the other for seemingly defense. His stance was a little sloppy, but it has improved a lot since the last time I saw it. This was when I took the chance to conceal myself again and hide. He was still on high alert as he was looking around, trying to pinpoint exactly where I was this time. It took him another couple seconds before he could find me. When he did though, he saw that it was me. He ran up to me and started apologizing. He said, I'm so sorry sensei. That was a training activity Kakashi sensei and I did. I said to him, Naruto, it's all okay. You really don't have to apologize. I just wasn't well informed. He quickly bowed and started apologizing about apologizing. I scratched the back of my head and chuckled, while he looked a little embarrassed because of what he just did, again. Okay Naruto, I said, clapping to get his attention. Today and for the rest of this week, we are going to be working on genjutsu, ninjutsu and some taijutsu if we have enough time to do so later. This got his full attention. Excuse me sensei. Why are we doing 3 different jutsu styles instead of just one? Is what he asked with a highly confused look on his face. I said, well, that's because I have the Sharingan, a dojutsu to the Uchiha clan. Everyone in our group decided that I should take up these jutsu types. I said, pausing, looking over him to see if he was still following what I was saying. And also we all thought it would have been better for you to get into these training with those chakra control exercises still clear in your head. So anyways, I want you to sit in one spot in a lotus position. I'm going to be placing you in a genjutsu and you have to dispel it. However, I won't be telling you when I'm about to start the genjutsu. He took in what I said fairly calm and while following every instruction I gave. During that time I explained how to break out of a genjutsu. 1. The genjutsu release technique, Kai, can break any in genjutsus by creating a small or large chakra surge to disrupt the genjutsu's flow. 2. A teammate can apply a chakra surge to you to also disrupt the genjutsu. 3. Causing yourself pain, like stabbing yourself. Like with Sasuke and Orochimaru or with Shikamaru and that one girl sound nin that plays the flute and he had to break his finger. 4. If you have the Sharingan, you can naturally break most to any genjutsu. While he was fixing his position I did the same about 3 feet in front of him. I told him to close his eyes while I was activating my Sharingan. I did a really simple E-rank genjutsu of someone really close to him getting injured very badly. While in this jutsu, I made it so that I could see what was happening but he couldn't see me. Sort of a limbo type world. Genjutsu world. They were still in the forest. Nothing seemed to have changed yet. Suddenly there was a gust of wind and before Itachi could react, he got stabbed in his side with a tanto blade, quickly bleeding out. Naruto started searching around for the enemy when 3 big men with a mist forehead protector jumps out from behind the trees. Naruto blasts his chakra for a good 3 seconds and bites his thumb, swiping the blood in a star-shaped form on his wrist, before running off and hiding while concealing his chakra. After he's fully hidden, a man in a simple battle kimono with red eyes and tinted red-orange hair comes out of seemingly nowhere. He single-handedly takes out the first guy with ease and grabbed his tanto and throws it towards the second man, successfully impaling his chest, killing him. While he was searching for the third enemy, he got a deep gash on his shoulder, from the man throwing a demon shuriken. Ironic, isn't it? It hit a vital vein and now his right arm is out of commission. He's now solely relying on his left arm. While he was trying to slow down the bleeding, the mist nin comes up behind him seemingly undetected and slashes at his back. After the redhead falls, the enemy searches him but leaves when he finds nothing of what he's searching for. Naruto comes out running while looking for the redhead, but as soon as he sees him, he starts to cry. He starts shouting, "Kurane, you can't leave me. You just can't." For Itachi, seeing Naruto like this made his heart ache, but he knew that this was only a training genjutsu. However, what he didn't know was how hard it was for Naruto to be seeing Kurama like this. He was someone apart from a handful other people who didn't see him as a demon's spawn or a monster, but a human child and truly loved him for who he was. After about another 20 seconds of crying, Naruto stands up, slaps his cheeks to stop himself from crying, and remembering that it was merely a genjutsu, he stays to himself, "No. Kurane is super strong. No way these guys can take him down," he said, "Kai," and that's when the genjutsu started to clear up. But before all was over, he bent back down really fast and gave the red-headed man a soft kiss on his cheek and said, "I love you, Kurane," like the man could hear him. Genjutsu over. Still Itachi's POV. I felt really horrible with what just happened. I pushed that feeling aside in order to continue his trainings. I knew he had to figure out how to get out of genjutsus quicker because some could definitely ruin your mental stability or mess you up physically too if the caster has ill intentions towards you. Time skip. It's been 3 hours of him completing all the E and D ranked genjutsus I could think of on the spot, and that was still about 20 E ranked and maybe 15 to 20 D ranked ones. He did a ton of simple ones where it was like an in-the-moment kind of feeling, so it was kind of easy, but at the same time hard. Although, it was only hard because he didn't know when I started the jutsu. 11 now. After he completed everything with a little more ease each time, we moved on to ninjutsu. "Naruto, do you know how to do the transformation jutsu?" He shook his head yes, then he transformed into the redhead from the first genjutsu and basically all the others. I made it a goal for myself to ask him why he was so precious to him, but I didn't get around doing it so far. Anyways, back to his training, Tachi. I said to myself while shaking my head, getting rid of those thoughts for now. "Okay Naruto, that was good," I said while clapping with a small smile on my face. "Now, I want to know if you know what your chakra nature is." He said, "Yes, I do sensei." I then proceeded to ask him if he knew what they were. He said no, but said to me, "Well, I'm pretty sure Kurane made me test it out." He didn't tell me what it was, but this magic paper split in 3. Well, basically 4, but he still said it was T3. He then ran over to his bag and then ran back over to me with a paper in his hand. "This is the magic paper he made me use. He told me to bring some in case you ask me about this." I really didn't know what to make of this child. He really makes you smile. I said to him, "So you remember what you're supposed to do to get a result? Right, Naruto?" I said that as more of a statement rather than a question. He said, "Yeah," with a big grin on his face. He then looked really concentrated on the magic paper. I could feel him pouring a ton of chakra into it. Like he said before, the paper really did split in 3, or 4, or however you want to think about it. One piece was split in 2, showing that he has a wind nature. The second piece burned up completely in red and blue flames, signifying he most definitely had a fire nature. The last piece got really soggy, almost turned to water, and this obviously was a water nature. It was really something to see that he had this strong of each nature at this age. He will most definitely become really powerful if he keeps on with his training. Really feeling like I couldn't say anything, I just clapped my hands congratulating him. That's how stunned I was. I patted his head and that made him flinch back a little. He tried to play it off with a cough, but I knew better. I told him to go to and drink some water, because his throat might be dry. I only said this to make him think he got away with it. Now that we know your chakra nature, we are only going to be focusing on one simple, but effective D-ranked jutsu for each nature you have. He shakes his head following what I was saying. So for example, I'm going to show you how to do Kaiten Mosashi. This jutsu you're doing, is that you're going to be spitting out small embers that cause small burns on the body, but the burn size and how bad it hurts depends on how much chakra you put into it. I pointed to a tree and told him to watch me. I did the necessary hand signs and turned the jutsu towards a tree. I spat out small ash-like embers at a tree. If you look closely you can see the small burns in the tree. But if you add more chakra to this jutsu you can make those small burns leave dents. They can go as far as you want them to, as long as you provide it with the necessary amount of chakra. I then turned to him and saw him with eyes twinkling. He looked really cute, but I wasn't about to say that. I told him to try the jutsu I just showed him and redid the signs slower in case he forgot them. He copied everything I did perfectly, until it was time to perform said task. His embers were half the size of mine and didn't even reach the tree, but he didn't let that stop him. He took notice to this and redid the jutsu 3 more times before he actually got it down. He asked me if he could retry the jutsu even though he got it down. He said he wanted to perfect it. Since it was a fairly easy jutsu, I just said okay and let him do his thing. He told me he wanted me to be surprised, so he asked if I could not look while he was trying to perfect the jutsu. I said that was fine and put the towel I brought with me over my face. I guess I dozed off for a little because he comes back to me 1 hour after with a big grin on his face looking all excited about something. He says, "See, come on, come on. I finally perfected it." Well, I think I did. He says while dragging me by my hands. I chuckled a little saying, Hi, I'm coming." When we finally reached the tree he's been practicing it, he points at it looking really proud of himself. I was really surprised at the sight to say the least. The tree was full of dents, some deep and some of the others shallow. I told him to show me what he was doing the entire time and he complied showing me. With the same big grin as before still present on his face. He made the required hand signs and then blew out the embers. While they were approaching the tree they started speeding up, but just a little though, and combining with one another until there were 5 big chunks all going to the tree at different directions. When they finally hit the target, you could clearly hear it sizzling, before it starts to burn and then it dissipates leaving behind some smoke and a large dent. The tree was clearly on its last leg. If he were to do that jutsu again, the tree would most likely fall down. Today was full of surprises and it was only around 12. Imagine the rest of the day. I was stunned and had my eyes wide open when I started clapping. I was left smiling to myself while looking at Naruto. He of course stood fists on his hips, nose in the air, and if at all possibly, a larger grin, obviously proud of himself. After I was done gawking at the child and the tree, poor evergreen tree, few loudly crying. I cleared my throat getting his attention. Since you have obviously mastered this jutsu in such a short amount of time, I want you to choose. If you want to take a quick 30-minute rest to gather your chakra or continue on with the next jutsu. He seemed to be thinking about his answer after I finished. I for one, fully expected him to say he wanted to learn another jutsu because he was still just a child. He surprised me when he chose to rest, but it was the wiser choice to make. I asked him why he chose this one and he said, well, since I do want to learn more jutsus, I also need to recover any lost chakra first so I can practice another jutsu for a longer period of time without feeling drained or not able to use enough of the needed chakra to perform said jutsu. I patted his head, also noticing his slight stutter was gone, and told him, wise choice. I'm honestly accepting a whole lot of these surprises from him, but this explanation was just too much. I'm really starting to wonder if he really is only 5, and not some wandering sage. But that in itself was a little bit too far-fetched. Time skip. After our 30-minute rest, it was now 12:30. During that rest, he took about 10 minutes to eat something, then almost immediately after he went into lotus position and started meditating. He would notice even the slightest of sounds, movements. I then started to explain how to do the next D-ranked jutsu. Now this jutsu is called Futon, Kei's no Purusu Kugeki. The user performs the required hand seals first, and then inhales deeply. Futon chakra aids the user to exhale and shoot out small pulses of wind bullets from their mouth. The projectiles are a few inches big and have a light green color. Though they're nothing serious, they can be quite annoying and/or painful. Especially when aimed at the face or upper body area. This time, not really wanting to destroy another tree, I went over to a boulder I noticed around an hour ago. There were 4 huge boulders, so we could stay there until we were done. I performed the jutsu twice. Once with little chakra and the other with a lot more than needed. The first time only left a crack and the second one took off the top half of the rock. I noticed that whenever Naruto would look super surprised at someone he didn't trust yet, he would always try to cover it up with wiping his eyes and clearing his throat. It was a cute sight. I was going to say something but I just chuckled to myself. Naruto, do you want to try out this jutsu now? He quickly nodded and tried out the jutsu hand signs. He had a little difficulty to get the wind chakra to come out. He looked a little flustered and annoyed at the idea when he realized he was just wasting chakra. He started walking up to me blushing and fidgeting with a small golden ring on his finger, while asking me if I could help him. His voice was hardly heard. It was below even a whisper. I couldn't help a grin making its way on my face. He said to me, Sensei, can why you tell me why the jutsu I isn't working please? He was looking everywhere on my face except in my eyes. I said to him, you don't have to be so shy when you ask me anything. That's what I'm here for. He nodded at me but still wouldn't look at my face. So anyways, I want you to take 3 deep breaths and then imagine those breaths coming out of you like wind. Then, focus on the wind chakra nature in your stomach only and keep focusing it as though it is coming up your throat, then out of your mouth. Draw that chakra from all over your body and focus it inside your lungs and cheeks before blowing it out. He did everything as I said without stopping me. I tried to make it as visual as I could, but still so he could understand me clearly. He then tried the jutsu again and this time it worked. When the jutsu finally worked, you couldn't even say that it was effective. I could tell that he didn't focus on using that much chakra because it didn't even leave a scratch on the rock anywhere. You could tell that Naruto was very disappointed with himself because of this, but he didn't give up. He told me that I could go and sit down, but I told him that I wanted to watch him this time. He did the jutsu about 20 more times for another 2 hours, and each time he would put either too much or too little. Out of the 4 boulders he was now on the last one. This last time, however, he put just the right amount, but considering that Naruto has way more chakra than 4 to 5 or Jonins put together, it was still a lot, and since he has the normal Uzumaki chakra reservoir and then the 9 tails chakra, it kind of went in his favor with having inhumanly amounts of chakra, and took the top half of it right off. So considering this, I'd say he has this jutsu down pat. Time skip. Now it was 2:30 in the afternoon, having just enough time for his Suiden jutsu and then working on his taijutsu stance and a little of his techniques. Naruto, the next jutsu is called Suiden, Beibaru by Mu. Again, like any other jutsu, the user performs the needed hand seal and then, said user inhales deeply. This jutsu allows the user to release a stream of bubbles from their mouths towards the target. These bubbles will shoot at a good speed and will explode upon contact. It will be distracting to the target and make them not able to focus on attacking but defending themselves. A skilled Suiten user will be able to turn this simple D-ranked jutsu into a C or B rank depending on how much chakra and how they use it. I directed myself towards another tree, sadly, and performed the jutsu again twice. Once with the necessary amount of chakra, then the second with more than needed. Naruto's face was in complete awe, again. I advised him to try out the jutsu but not before showing him the necessary handsings again because I was very certain he wasn't paying attention to my hands at all. As if he knew he wasn't going to be able to bring out the water chakra nature just like that, he asked me for help. Imagine there is a river in your stomach, but that river has a strong current and is splashing everywhere and not only going one direction. I want you to imagine yourself on the bed of that river and then stretching out your hands and pushing your chakra into its waters. While doing that, say something that would calm you down no matter what had happened and increase the amount of chakra you're giving the waters. Shake your head when you have the river under your control. I waited about 2 minutes before he shook his head. Okay, that's good. Now put your hand in the water and take your chakra and draw it out, then shoot it up at the sky. Again, shake your head when you have completed this. I waited another 2 minutes before he again shook his head. Now again imagine a tube in the sky and that will be your throat, where the water will be going to. I paused for a second as I watched him nod, okay, and then finally imagine yourself saying the jutsu and then shooting it at that same tube in the sky after you open your eyes. He opened his eyes and gave me a brief nod before he turned to a tree and performed the jutsu. The water bubbles came shooting out of his mouth at a fast rate and blew up the tree. The aftermath of the tree blowing up left pieces of wood flying in every direction. On instinct, I grabbed Naruto and buried his face in my shirt before I ran and jumped onto a tree about 20 yards away from the blast, just to be safe though. Didn't want Naruto getting hurt from something I could have prevented. Let's just say Naruto learned his lesson on how much chakra not to put into any jutsu while being so close to the target. He worked on this, while adding way less than the first try and came out successful after about 10 to 15 more tries. It was now around 3:30 when he got it down perfectly and without almost killing or severely injuring himself, or me. After all those mishaps, I told Naruto that we will take a 2-hour break so that he can replenish his chakra and eat while also resting his body. Almost immediately after he fell down on his back. That made me start to panic, but I managed to keep my cool slightly though. I shot metaphorically a million questions at him, but the one I repeated a lot was, "What's wrong?" or "Are you hurt anywhere?" while running my eyes over him but not touching him because I kind of figured he didn't like to be touched at all. He replied to all my questions after I was done. I saw a slight smile on his tired-looking face. He said, "I'm fine, sensei, I'm just tired and I just need to rest day for a little bit." After he finished that last sentence, he fell asleep. I almost started laughing because here I am worrying myself to death and then he just goes and falls asleep. What a cute and refreshing little child. I thought in my head with a small and gentle smile playing on my lips as I watched him sleep for another few seconds. I got myself up and picked him up and placed him under a shaded tree while placing his red and orange jacket over his sleeping figure. While I was placing him down, he stretched out his hands and let out a small groan. I kept him in my arms for a little bit, but I'm guessing I also fell asleep. Time skip. It was now around 5:30 when I woke up to something shuffling in my arms. I fully opened my drowsy eyes and realized it was Naruto still sleeping. Almost immediately I remembered his ways of apologizing for something when nothing happened and him not liking being touched. I gently placed him down. When I was about to finish eating the food I bought with me, I saw Naruto sweating, breathing heavily and turning a whole lot. I knew he was having a nightmare, so I went over to him and encased him in a gentle but firm hug. At first he was still kicking and wiggling trying to get out of my grip, but I didn't let go. As if knowing that I wasn't about to let go, he stopped struggling and instead buried himself more into me and calmed down before he suddenly jumped awake. At this time I still didn't let go of him until his breathings came back to its regular speed. I finally let him go after about 5 minutes, saying things like, "It's me, Itachi. I'm not going to hurt you," or "I'm here. You're not hurt, it was just a very realistic dream," or just saying, "Shush, shush," while patting his back in a soothing way and bouncing him on my lap. After he was fully calmed down, I let go of him for a brief second while giving him some water and food but never putting him down out of my lap. He didn't complain, not even once, only saying some quiet thank yous and letting out favored groans towards the food. After all this happened, it was now just 10 minutes away from 6 o'clock when we were supposed to get started. I asked him, "We have 10 minutes before we had turned 6, so do you want me to let you go keep holding you?" in a soft voice, not wanting to startle him. I almost missed him saying that he wanted me to keep holding him because of how quiet he said it. I just gave a simple, "okay," while bouncing him slowly while thinking about why he was so scared. I knew that it was a nightmare, but I didn't want to ask him in fear of bringing back memories I'm sure he'd quite possibly want to forget. Now it was 6 o'clock. That 10 minutes sure went by fast. I told Naruto the time and he reluctantly got off of me and started stretching his legs, back and arms, shoulders. He turned to me and thanked me for what I did while bowing a little. I waved him off and said it was fine. I secretly wanted to hold him, because of his size too though, but I would have never said that last part. I also got up and started stretching while telling him that we're going to be working on making his taijutsu stance have less openings and making his attacks powerful. I said to him, "Naruto, last week Kakashi told us that he made you work on chakra-induced attacks, right?" This was more of a statement rather than a question. He shook his head yes while rocking back and forth on his heel. I informed him to get into his stance, and when he did, I made some adjustments to it as how I recalled Kurama-san's form looked. Since I don't know how to fight in that stance, I might need to ask Kurama if he can help me with this part of Naruto's training. "Naruto, can you call out Kurama-san for me? I need to ask him something." He shook his head and closed his eyes. Naruto's POV, a short P.O. versus though. As I went into my mindscape, I saw that Kurane was sleeping in his cave. I wanted to scare him a little, but just to get back at him for what he did to me when we first met. I slowly crept up on him and hid my chakra signature while hiding behind trees and in bushes. I'm about 10 feet away from where Kuro was sleeping and he looked so peaceful, but not for long. He. I hid as best as I could in the shadows of the cave, and once I was about to scream he poofed away. I looked all around me, but no sign of him anywhere. I was just about to leave to look for him somewhere else, but as soon as I turned around, I got a short glimpse of him and he screamed, "Boo." I was so scared and mad that I was the one who got scared and not him. When I came back from being scared, almost to death, he was laughing and gripping his stomach on the floor while he was in his human form. I puffed out my cheeks while I waited for him finally calm down. When he finally calmed down, he said, "Ah, young Naru. It's going to take way more than that to scare me. Maybe another 500 years before you can." While getting up, flipping his hair all dramatic and stuff and patting my head. I rolled my eyes at his playfulness and said, yeah, whatever you say. "Anyways, why'd you come here already? Fill me in," as I was sleeping. "Alright, Itachi-sensei wants to talk to you in your human form if possible. He didn't tell me what he wanted you for though. He only told me to call you, and then I kinda got sidetracked." I said that last part while blushing and laughing an embarrassed laugh. "Okay, tell him that I'm coming in a few seconds so you can go back right now." I nodded my head and said okay. After I came out, I saw that sensei was sitting under the shade of a few trees while watching me. I told him what Kurane said and that he's coming soon. He nodded his head and started walking back towards me. Itachi's POV. Now that Kurama-san's here, I can get on with his training. "Hello Kurama-san. I'm Itachi Uchiha and I'm the one training Naruto this week." After I introduced myself, he started clenching his jaw and gave me a cold smile. He walked over to Naruto and patted his head while basically ignoring me, except that hateful smile he threw me. I cleared my throat and asked him, "Kurama-san, would you mind if I asked for you to train Naruto in his taijutsu training for the rest of the week, while I watch and pick up on some things you guys do for future references?" He said to me, "I'll help as long as it's 1 week. I'm already preoccupied with having to think up a schedule for his special training for the next year." I nodded and said only 1 week is fine, and he said okay. He complied with me, but he had to look at me for a little before he did. I can tell that he is going to be pretty stubborn and reluctant to do anything I ask him, but I knew he'd do basically anything for Naruto since he did agree. He got into his stance while I walked off to the side watching them carefully. Kurama's POV. I really didn't want to help this Itachi guy at all, but I had a small tiny bitty feeling he could be trusted, but until he shows it himself, I won't trust him at all. I watched as he walked off while watching this to see what we were doing with a calculative gaze, and then started to turn on his Sharingan. Those wretched eyes disgusted me so much. I ignored him for that moment and turned myself back to Naruto, pushing every thought I just had to the back of my mind. I slowly slid myself into my stance while Naruto took it as he should also do the same, in which he did. This taijutsu style was made by me to be sly, sneaky and catch the enemy off guard with no openings at all. My form of teaching is to drill the exercise in the student without telling them their mistakes and forcing them to fix it on their own. I know that might seem unteacherly, but it makes them think for themselves without someone constantly telling them what to do. As I focused back in on Naruto, I started counting down from 5 until I said start. I attacked him mercilessly for about an hour while he was on defense. As I was attacking, all I said was focus, shift your weight or stand firm. I attacked all his weak points I could find while speeding up just a little at a time. He took all my directions and made adjustments to his stance and corrected his mistakes without me telling him to. All I had to do was attack him and he fixes his mistakes, or at least tried to, without making the same opening for me to attack again. After our hour was up, I said to him, "Naruto, tell me your mistakes." Out the corner of my eye I could clearly see Itachi looking kind of judgmental at me because I barely said anything to him at all. Naruto straightened up and said back to me, "Okay sir." My mistakes included leaving my lower left side open for attack more than once, which could get me killed if happened in a real fight. Also leaving my torso unguarded and completely open, and finally not fixing my posture, getting distracted, not shifting my weight properly and not standing firm, allowing myself to get knocked down when I could have easily shifted onto another foot and moving my weight evenly. A smile adorned my face as he talked about his many mistakes while giving me the ways he could have solved them too. I was so proud of him. I looked over at Itachi and waved for him to come over to me. I told Naruto to take a 5-minute breather before we continue with him attacking this time. When I noticed Itachi came over, I said to him, "Naruto will never learn if you keep on telling him what he needs to fix if he doesn't figure it out himself. What will happen when you guys suddenly disappear and I'm occupied with something and he has to train himself, huh? Who do you think is going to tell him what he needs to fix? That's the only way he'll learn effectively. So whenever you're teaching him taijutsu, just attack his weak spots and give a few key instructions, but never too much. In a real battle his enemy would never tell him what he needs to fix, they will always use it against him and go for kill." I paused for a second to check back over on Naruto and then looked back at Itachi looking down, seemingly taking note of what I just said. After the 5 minutes was up, I recalled Naruto over and told him it was time to practice again. We were in the middle of my defending while dodging a sloppy attack Naruto threw at my midsection, when an Anbu suddenly jumps down in front of Itachi. He bowed slightly to us and said Hokage-sama needed him for an urgent one-night mission. He turned back to me and said that this was how the rest of the week will go and the day is over, so now we can head home. He took off towards the cage tower while I watched as Naruto dropped to the ground gasping for air. I chuckled lightly at him and did a basic leaf sunshine to his room. I stayed and locked his doors and windows before tucking him in and giving a small kiss on his forehead while whispering a good night to him as he fell asleep. I stayed for the rest of the night in my small chibi fox form, but with one tail in case someone somehow broke in without me noticing it. That's all for now. If you enjoyed, then please like, share and do comments.